In this part, we discuss about the menstrual cycle. So, menstrual cycle also called as ovarian cycle, and it is a characteristic feature of mammals, okay, and especially it is takes place in humans and apes, okay, and other than human and ape, the mammal shows oestrus cycle, okay. So menstrual cycle is takes place in primates like humans and apes. So in case of human and apes, female. So actually what is menstrual cycle? Menstrual cycle is nothing but the changes in reproductive system. That means it is make ready for that female for fertilization and for the pregnancy. So cyclic changes takes place in reproductive system, that is called as menstrual cycle. So changes takes place in uterus, changes takes place in ovary and hormonal level. Okay, so that is called as menstrual cycle. So it is prepared for the female for fertilization of gametes and for pregnancy. That means for the gestation period. So this is the menstrual cycle, and menstrual cycle starts at puberty period, and that is puberty period for female is 10 to 14 years. So at that the menstrual cycle starts, and first menstrual cycle is called as menarche, and menarche is at the puberty age, okay, and mensum, the word menstrual is from mensum, and mensum means month, that is 28 days, actually approximately it is 28 days cycle, okay. So it is the cycle which takes place within 28 days. So menstrual cycle starts at puberty, and the first cycle is called as menarche, okay. So it is suspended, that means at that phase females not showing menstrual cycle, and that phases are during the pregnancy and when she is in the lactation period. At that time the menstrual cycle is suspended, and this menstrual cycle is permanently stopped at the menopause, okay. So menopause means there is no further menstrual cycle, okay. So menopause is at the age of 45 to 50. It again varies. So menopause causes changes in female body. So first menopause is caused change in the hormonal level. So estrogen hormone, and this hormone is secreted by developing follicles. So follicles are not developed, and because of that the estrogen hormone its level is decreases. So decreasing level of estrogen is the characteristic of this menopause. Then hot flushes, mood swings because of hormonal changes, swings, and that is changes occur in female mood and this testosterone level. Actually in female testosterone is also present in less amount, but because of high level of estrogen it does not show any effect. But at the menopause this estrogen level is becomes zero, and that's why testosterone starts showing its effects, and because of that it shows the few hairs appear on face or even baldness also. So because of that menopause, in female low estrogen level, then hot flushes, then mood swings, these are the characteristics of menopause, and increased level of testosterone. So menstrual cycle is having different phases. Actually it is divided into 4 phases. That means these 28 days are divided into 4 basic phases. So it starts from the day 1, that is menstrual phase, in which that is actually bleeding phase. Okay, and this bleeding phase is approximately for 4 to 5 days. It starts from day 1 to day 5. Menstrual phase. Okay, here the endometrium lining is rupture of uterus. The endometrium lining is rupture. And then next, after this menstrual phase, the follicular phase is there. During that phase, endometrium starts to regenerate, and this follicular cells it starts to develop, and it produces hormone, that is estrogen hormone. Because of that, endometrium starts to regenerate and recover. And then next is third, that is very short phase, that is ovulation. And this follicular phase is last for 10 to 12 days, okay, after this menstrual phase. Okay, and then ovulation phase, it's just a event in which the secondary oocyte is releases from Graafian follicle, and that is takes place during the 14th day of cycle. It may be vary 2 to 3 days because in every woman this 28 days cycle is not carry forward. So सगळ्याच women मध्ये 28 days ची cycle follow होते असं नाही. It shows 2 to 3 days variation. Okay, so ovulation takes place, but actually ovulation takes place at 14th day of cycle. And luteal phase, then next is ovulation, you understand. So at ovulation phase, the Graafian follicle ruptures, and from that what is releases, that is secondary oocyte is releases, and that takes place at the 14th day of cycle. And next is the luteal phase. After the rupture of this secondary oocyte from Graafian follicle, the remnant of this Graafian follicle start to produce some hormone that is converted into corpus luteum. The remaining Graafian follicle is converted into hemorrhages, and then it converts into corpus luteum. And this luteal phase, that's why it is called as a luteal phase, it secretes a hormone that is called as progesterone. Luteal phase, or also called as secretory phase, because corpus luteum starts to secrete one hormone that is called as progesterone, and this progesterone is essential for maintaining pregnancy. So this luteal phase or secretory phase is last for from 15th day of menstrual cycle till 28th day of menstrual cycle. So if fertilization is not takes place, then again this menstrual phase is repeated. So you understand this menstrual cycle different, it is divided into 4 phases, that is menstrual phase, follicular phase, ovulation phase and luteal phase. In next video आपण डायग्रामच्या फॉर्म मध्ये बघणार आहोत what changes will takes place in uterus. So during menstrual cycle, what changes takes place in uterus, what changes takes place in ovary and hormonal level. Hormones are secreted by ovary also and pituitary glands also. So this hormone, because of that hormonal level, what changes occur in all these organs we'll see in detail in next lecture. Thank you. Now in this part we discuss in detail about the menstrual cycle and different phases and whatever the changes occurs in ovary, uterus and this ovarian hormones and pituitary hormones. So in the diagram we divide everything in different parts. Like first part is here we mention uterine wall, whatever the changes occur in uterus that mention here. Then ovarian hormones, whatever hormones secrete in ovary, what changes occur during menstrual cycle in different phases we discuss here. And then changes in ovary, exactly what happens in all these phases in ovary. And then this pituitary gland and its hormone. So first is the first phase, that is the menstrual phase. Actually menstrual cycle is divided into 4 phases, that is menstrual phase. First is the menstrual phase, which for 1 to 5 days. Okay, it starts from 1 to 5 days. It ends at the 5th day. And then next is the follicular phase, from 6th to 13th day, that is follicular phase. Then third, that is very short phase, ovulation phase on 14th day, and last, that is luteal phase. So in all that phases, whatever changes occurs in uterus, in ovary, that is ovarian hormones and ovaries, we will discuss from this diagram. So first, in menstrual phase, okay, so during that phase in uterus, the endometrium lining of uterus is declined, okay, and is ruptured because fertilization is not takes place. And why this happens? Because low level of progesterone hormone. And who produces this progesterone? So this progesterone is produced by corpus luteum. So remember that corpus luteum is after the ovulation from Graafian follicle, secondary oocyte is releases and the remaining is called as corpus luteum, and that corpus luteum secrete progesterone. Corpus luteum काय करेल? प्रोजेस्टेरॉन सिक्रीट करेल. जर प्रोजेस्टेरॉन लेवल कमी असेल तर काय होईल? मेन्स्ट्रुएशन फेज होईल, स्टार्ट होईल. At that time, if there is no ovulation, then level of progesterone is decreases. If progesterone level is decreases, then this menstruation, that is lining of endometrium, is ruptures. And because of low level of progesterone, this indicates or this stimulates the pituitary gland. Low level of progesterone stimulate pituitary to secrete FSH hormone. What is that FSH? FSH means follicle stimulating hormone. Okay, so low level of progesterone causes stimulation of pituitary gland, anterior lobe of pituitary for secretion of FSH hormone, and because of low level of progesterone, endometrium lining is breaks. Okay, and that phase is called as menstrual phase. Menstruation occurs during this phase, or also bleeding phase. Now, after this 5th day, so pituitary starts to secrete FSH hormone, and because of this FSH is called as follicle stimulating hormone. So because of that, this FSH causes changes in ovary. In ovary, number of follicles are present, and from this follicle, one follicle in every month starts to develop. So because of this FSH, one primary follicle starts to develop into secondary follicle, secondary into tertiary follicle, tertiary into Graafian follicle. Okay, so and this follicles start to produce one hormone, and that is called as estrogen. They secrete one hormone. Developing follicle start to produce estrogen. Okay, so because of FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, in ovary, this follicle starts to develop from primary to secondary, secondary to tertiary, and from tertiary to the Graafian follicle. And now this developing follicle start to produce one hormone that is called as estrogen. Okay, so estrogen level is increases during this phase, and because of increased level of estrogen, the endometrium starts to repair. Endometrium level present in layer present in uterus that starts to repair, and its thickness become 2 to 3 mm, and it becomes glandular because of hormone estrogen. Increased level of estrogen causes the repair of endometrium. Yes, that's why this phase is called as under the influence. This phase is under the influence of follicles. That's why it is called as follicular phase. The second phase is called as follicular phase. So because of this estrogen, endometrium starts to repair, and it becomes 2 to 3 mm in their thickness, and it becomes glandular. Now the third phase. Now we see this. If this Graafian follicle is mature, after this high level of estrogen is maintained, and this high estrogen stimulates pituitary to stop which hormone? FSH. Why? Because already this follicle is mature, and in case of female, in every month only one egg is mature, only one follicle is mature, and only one embryo is fit in that uterus. That's why there is no need of excess amount of FSH. So high estrogen level stimulate pituitary to stop the secretion of FSH. So it decrease the FSH level and increase one more hormonal level, that is LH. LH is luteinizing hormone. Now why this happens? Because high estrogen level is increases, and because of that high estrogen, it indicates that now these follicles are ready, follicles are developed. So stop the what? FSH hormone. Why FSH is needed? FSH is needed for the development of follicles, but here the follicle are ready. Okay, so that's why it stimulates the pituitary to stop the formation of FSH hormone and start the formation of LH. Increase the level of which hormone? That is luteinizing hormone. And now pituitary starts to secrete LH hormone, and because of that LH level is increases, and that high level of LH is called as surge, and because of that LH surge the ovulation takes place. That means this Graafian follicle is ruptured and secondary oocyte is releases. Okay, and that is very short phase, and that is called as ovulation phase, and this phase takes place at 14th day of menstrual cycle. So here what happens? So LH is secreted, and because of LH, high amount of LH causes this LH surge, and because of that this Graafian follicle ruptures, secondary oocyte is releases, and that phase is called as ovulation, and this is the 14th day. Okay, now after the ovulation phase, so this remaining Graafian follicle is converted into corpus luteum. So this corpus luteum secrete one hormone, and that hormone is called as progesterone. So here see that the level of progesterone is low till ovulation, but after ovulation progesterone level is increases. So progesterone is essential for maintaining pregnancy. If fertilization takes place, then to maintain the pregnancy, this progesterone hormone is very essential. So corpus luteum secrete one hormone, that is progesterone. And because of this increased level of progesterone, endometrium starts to develop fast and its thickness is increases. Okay, and after this, and that's why it is called as a luteal phase, because of corpus luteum. Under the influence of corpus luteum, this phase takes place under the influence of corpus luteum. That's why it is called as luteal phase or secretory phase. It secretes one hormone, that is progesterone, and this phase till 15th to 18th, 28th day. Okay, now if fertilization takes place within that 14th to 16th day of menstrual cycle, then progesterone level is maintained. Okay, so progesterone level is maintained if fertilization takes place, and this progesterone is essential for the maintaining pregnancy. But if fertilization is not takes place, no fertilization, then the level of this progesterone is decreases. Okay, and corpus luteum is converted into the corpus albicans, and in that phase there is no secretion of progesterone, that is low level of progesterone again causes the rupture of endometrium. So this is the cyclic change. So in that fourth stage, what is that? Luteal phase, under the influence of corpus luteum, which secrete one hormone, that is called as progesterone, and progesterone is for maintaining pregnancy. So if fertilization takes place during this phase, this progesterone level maintains, okay, till all gestation period. But if fertilization not takes place, So the level of progesterone becomes decreases, and this corpus luteum is converted into corpus albicans, and there is no secretion of progesterone. So low level of progesterone condition is produces after this 28th days if there is no fertilization. Then again the rupture of endometrium, and this first phase, that is a menstrual phase, is again repeated after 28th days. And if fertilization takes place, then this progesterone is maintained. So you understand this? So pituitary gland and its hormones are very important. Two main hormones, that is FSH and LH. Follicle stimulating hormone is essential for development of follicles, and LH is essential, that is luteinizing hormone, for rupture of this Graafian follicle and release of secondary oocyte. So understand this: 1, 2, 3 and 4, that is menstrual phase, follicular phase, then ovulation phase and luteal phase.